Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. This episode of whatever it's going to be, honestly, I don't know what I'm going to call this. We're reacting to a bit of your guys' hot takes. Now, I posted a thing to both the Reddit, to YouTube, and to the Discord asking for your guys' hot takes, Pokemon Sleep hot takes, and I just wanted to see what you all had to say, and I thought it might be kind of fun to go through and just kind of give what my thoughts are on all of them that you guys sent out. So I sent this out over a day ago. And I'm hoping to have some interesting stuff to talk about here. So let's just get right into it. I thought it'd be fun to go to Reddit first. So yeah, just going to start going through all of it. So first person says, gold sub skills other than berry finding S and helping bonus aren't always bad. Sleep XP and research bonuses, for example, can accelerate players to higher levels quicker, in turn leading to more growth. Skill level up M is low-key amazing for easily and cheap onboarding a Skillsmon. Dream Shard bonus, tacking an extra 6% shards each night is low-key goated. Then energy recovery is solid for players who don't get 8.5 sleep hours every night. And then inventory L, I mean, that's not a gold sub-skill. Oh, whoops. Inventory up L, it's not a gold sub-skill, but yes. Oh, yeah. This person said for some reason it's not a gold sub-skill, but it's great for Pokemon that don't evolve. And then a lot of people think that, I mean, it's blocking other useful things. But yeah, I mean, I agree with Inventory L. Energy recovery, if you don't get 8.5 hours of sleep every night and don't run a healer, I think is very good. But for most players, they either fake their sleep to be 100% sleep scores, in which case it does basically nothing. Or they're running energy for everyone, in which case the 14% boost. I mean, you're bringing it from like a 20% after the night is over to 100%. So it still maxes out the same way. I think that's the bigger problem, is the more the existence of energy for everyone than it is getting 8.5 hours of sleep. Meanwhile, these other ones, I mean, it's just more their applications are more niche. A lot of players' goal is to get as much strength as possible, and they don't really contribute to that. But yes, they do provide some value. It's just a lot of these benefits you can gain from mons you don't care about, like Dream Shard bonus and Research XP bonus. Those two you can slap on the team on Sunday night with just a team of what I call sleeper combos. And then reap the full reward from it without putting in any of the investment. Or if you have a good enough healer, you can swap it so you get them every single night. So it's just kind of weird. I think that's kind of the purpose of it. So as far as the hot take goes, I'll rate that one a... I'll rate it 3 out of 10 for spiciness. It's not that spicy. But I think I'd rate it a... I mean, it's pretty accurate. It's kind of accurate. They're somewhat overlooked, but I'd say 3 out of 10 for spiciness. Berry bombing is a waste of time. I think this one, I kind of agree with it to an extent. I mean, there are other things that are better to do, but if I don't have anything else better to do, then maybe I'll do it. I understand the hype around it for some people, and I understand why it's not hype for other people. So I'd say for some people, though, this is a huge hot take. Probably like some people love their berry bombs. For strong weeks, but I prefer more my event prep through the bag space, so I don't know, for me this feels like a bit more of a mild spicy take, but some people think that this is a lot more, so I'll give it a 6 out of 10 for spiciness. There are far too many abbreviations used for stuff in this game. It makes it really hard for a casual player to take a step forward and more hardcore play. I mean, I understand that point, but at the same time, when you are big into the community, like, if you're really trying to min-max the game, you'll learn the language. It makes it difficult for new players to come in, but nobody wants to write out every single time berry finding S. That's way more letters, and it's like sending text lingo to your friends. Like, you send TTYL, you send BRB. So, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's that big of a problem. I understand it for more casual players, but I understand why people do it as well. And somebody actually posted a long explanation of what all the abbreviations mean to this person. So, good job to this person. I know you didn't the one that actually wrote it, because apparently you credited Nerth. But, okay. It's not a sleep tracker, but a game that happens to use sleep tracking as a game mechanic. That is just like... That's more of a... That's less of a hot take, and more of just like a... Because that's honestly true. And I never thought about it that way. And this is kind of funny. I don't know. I'll give it an 8 out of 10 for spiciness, just because it is mind blown. Now that the badge system has been introduced, there is literally no advantage to catching evolved Pokemon. Therefore, if the evolved Pokemon still suffer from lower inventory and lower skill level, they should contribute something to the Pokemon's base badge friendship level progress. Honestly, I agree with that. That feels more like a game suggestion than a hot take, per se. I'm just going to give this like a 1 for spiciness, because it's not really that crazy. I think most people would probably agree with this, honestly. Dream Shard Research XP bonus, Sleep XP bonus is my favorite skill trifecta, and I won't have anyone slammer them because they're not helping bonus Berry Finding S. I mean, it's a good combo, but I wouldn't put it on the mons that I'm running throughout the week, so that one is pretty spicy of a take, especially because helping bonus and Berry Finding S are among the most powerful in the game. Sleep XP bonus is a bit more controversial. Legendaries honestly only need skill trigger, since they can survive off of other helping bonuses users in the same squad. A perfect spread on them isn't the be-all, end-all. They're not Rattata. You won't find them in every time you sleep. That is also very true. I'd say a legendary. My thoughts on it aren't necessarily they only need skill trigger to be viable. My thoughts on it are you shouldn't be considering a legendary unless you happen to catch a good one, which does need more than skill trigger M. If you really want to use one, you can get away with using just skill trigger, like just one instance of the sub-skill. But is it an optimal choice? You're probably better just running another berry specialist of that type, or some other Pokemon that's not a legendary that can kind of simulate what they're doing. So that's more for if you want to have fun and use the Pokemon even though it's kind of suboptimal. If you want to actually use them and commit to them being a member of your team all the time, I think they do need more than that. Ingredient Finding M isn't a deal breaker on a Berrymon. I actually get more ginger from my Typhlosion than anything else that isn't T-Tar right now. I agree with this one quite a bit. Not necessarily because you're actually looking to get the ginger, but just because it isn't a deal breaker. I've made an entire video on this before. So this one gets like a 1 out of, well, I guess like a 2 or 3 out of spiciness, because I know some people think it's a deal breaker. As for this one, I don't know. I guess I'd say like a 2 for spiciness. And then for this one, yeah, that one's a bit more up there in spicy, because I would disagree with that quite a bit. I would put it at like an 8. Okay, I don't know if it's a hot take necessarily, but something that comes up a bit. Don't think there's a wrong way to play. I mean, yeah, pretty much. There is really no wrong way to play necessarily. A lot of people do push other folks to max out absolutely everything at a record pace. Very true. But some people, if you want to play it if you want to play it that way, and people are asking for advice, if people are coming to, watch my YouTube videos, if people are asking, hey, is this Pokemon good, and looking for advice, then you should give them advice. Then offering them advice is not necessarily a bad thing, and telling them the steps they can take to min-max the game. If someone is just posting their shiny and be like, oh my gosh, look, I caught a shiny Cresselia or something, and it's got skill chance down and they want to use it anyway, let the person use it. I mean, it's a chill game. The person can use the bad Pokemon, even if it's bad, because it's fun to use a shiny. I mean, I invested my shiny Gardevoir, even though many players probably would have told me not to. And I enjoyed that. I still am happy with that investment decision. Min-maxing a sleep app is weird. Yes, it is, but I'm proud to be weird. And this one, I guess I'd say like a 1 for hot take. I don't think it's really a hot take. Min-maxing a sleep app is weird. I think we all know it's weird, but it's still fun. So 1 out of 10 for hot take, hot spiciness. Mono ingredient mons are overrated. I agree with this heavily. I've talked about this before. A lot of the community probably would see this as the spiciest of the take. I personally actually like mixed ingredient specialists. When used properly, they need to have the right lists and they need to have some synergy. There are certain lists that, as of right now, are just unforgivable. I'm looking at you, particularly ABC Fuecoco. I have a phenomenal ABC Fuecoco, so that one is one that I really do not see as a possibility, but some of them, like AAC Vikavolt, I think that's a phenomenal combo, and it's definitely slept on, because, yeah, AAA are more future-proof, but do you really care if you have a team that's outputting Master 20 at almost every island right now? Where's it to go? I mean, I guess there are future islands, but you can get more through other methods. You can build more teams around the new ingredients that come out, new meals that come out, there's always going to be something you can work towards. And if you just work towards having stuff that's completely future-proof, then what's the point of hunting stuff in the future? Where's the fun in already having a set team of Pokemon that can do everything? Because if they can already do everything, then why would you catch anything else? So, I guess that's kind of my take on that, and one of the reasons why I don't necessarily 100% subscribe to the mono ingredient meta. But yeah. This one, I think the community would probably see it as like a 7 out of 10 for spiciness, because a lot of people really love their mono ingredient Pokemon. For me, though, this is definitely like a 1 out of 10, because I 100% agree. Sudowoodo isn't bad. Weakest of its kind, yes. All bad, like Wobbuffet? Absolutely no. 100% agree. Sudowoodo really isn't that bad. It gets a bad rap because it's very slow. And a lot of people say it's horrendous, but it is the worst of its kind, yes. But is it like Wobbuffet? No. I don't know if this is really hot. I give it like a 4, because a lot of people say it's really bad. So, XP down is bad, more specifically on Berrymon. Some people say it's just the best nature at max level, where there is no negative, but from level 1 to 99, your Pokemon is just 18% weaker than it should be. Okay, the math doesn't quite work out on that like that. Firstly, if you're at max level anyway, like I have an XP gains down Gengar that I use for berries because it's got Berry Finding S. I got it to level 60 months ago because I've invested it quite a bit. You can get a lot of Gengar candies because Ghastly's pretty common. It hasn't really been a problem for me. And also, it wouldn't be worse because it's not level 1 to 99. It would be like at level 60 for me, it was the same. So, it's a little bit worse from now, but as the game increments more and more, I mean, I guess it's a little bit weaker. But also, 18%. That's not 100% true. There's an exponential curve. So, it's not going to actually be 18% less levels. Also, 18% less levels, even if that was true, wouldn't equate to 18% less strength. So, I mean, it really depends on when you're leveling it, when you're getting it to your level caps for your research rank. Because that's another thing. Even if those levels are unlocked for the game, you still can't reach them if you're not at the research rank right now. I know on the Sleepers account, I'm locked at level 55 for my Pokemon. So if I had a Pokemon at level 55, it wouldn't matter if it had XP gains up or XP gains down nature. It's kind of whatever. So I don't think I'd say it's bad. It's more expensive for sure. But realistically, you're probably going to eventually hit a cap or two if you're investing enough in your favorite Pokemon or your best berry specialist and making those investments wisely. So I don't think I necessarily agree with this one. I'd say this one's very spicy. Probably 8 out of 10. Raichu is overrated, from iBen Brown, of course. Well, I will say this. In response to this one, I will just say, on my account, this would be a 10 out of a 10 for spicy level, if it was in reference to my account specifically. But in the community, I mean, it is technically worse for general strength than the Johto starters. It is, and it's got just as many islands favored berry for them as well. Apples are pretty good, I'd say, for its ingredient list, but it's a berry specialist, so you can't really consider its ingredient list unless you catch a good one. So, realistically, is it overrated? I mean, I think maybe I overrate it, but that's just because it's my account. I don't think necessarily the community overrates it. So, as for the community, I don't think this is a 10 out of 10 spicy level. Maybe like a 6 out of 10 spice. ABC ingredient Pokemon, not always bad. I already talked about this one, kind of, with the mono ingredient thing. Refusing to increase the ingredient bag while continuously releasing new gigantic dishes is a pain. And increasing both item and Pokemon boxes multiple times in comparison makes it obvious it's on purpose. I would agree with that. But is it a pain? I think it's more just for the sake of game balance. Because realistically, if you have less bag space, it's going to result in needing to depend more upon the ingredient specialists that you have to produce those ingredients throughout the week than if you can stockpile ingredients in the week priors to for the event weeks. So if you had the ingredient bag, say, at 1,000, like Pokemon storage is at 1,200 now, then realistically, we would see a weird shift where people could prep more meals in advance. And that would lead to, honestly, more berry Pokemon dominance of the meta. Interestingly enough, I think it would actually nerf not nerf ingredient specialists. They would just become more of a preparation tool than they become an actual Pokemon you can run. And I think that's the only reason why they haven't given us more ingredient bag space, but continuously release the space for inventory, item inventory, and Pokemon space. So I think this is more just a general kind of fact we've all kind of have realized that they're purposefully not releasing more ingredient bag space. But I think that's just for game balance reasons, not necessarily just to be a pain. So I'll give this like a 5 out of 10. Neutral natures are the secret MVP. I don't know how to react to this one. I mean, they're good in a sense that they're not bad. A lot of people think that they are bad, or seem to act like they think that a neutral nature is bad. I've seen people be like, oh no, it's ruined by the nature, and they'll post the sub-skills, and they're like flawless sub-skills, like Berry Fighting S, Helping Bonus, Help Speed M, and they're like, but ruined by nature, and it's like bashful, and you're like, what? It's a neutral nature. Neutral natures are not bad. But I don't think they're the MVP. The secret MVP in the fact that they save us from more bad natures, but a good nature is going to be better. So I'm going to give this a 5 out of 10, neutral for neutral. Hot take specifically aimed at the subreddit. Saving resources for the perfect mon can be extremely detrimental if you hold out on good Pokemon because they aren't the best. I don't know if I've seen that be a problem on the subreddit before. Some people, I think, have really high standards. I think it's more of a problem of they don't consider a player's position in the game and where they are at in the game. Because some people are brand new, and saying, oh, you have to wait until Berry Finding S, that can actually be a long wait. If I look back at my Sleepers experiment, I was investing in rats without Berry Finding S or Helping Bonus pretty early game, I'm pretty sure. So, like, get whatever you need to get you off the ground. Just use it. Maybe level it up a few levels. Get that extra strength before you get the ground running. But obviously, the longer you get into the game, the more you look to filter more to reach your standards. Because it's going to... rarer stuff is going to be needed to overcome the power of the stuff that you already have. I always make meal with random added ingredients and typically run a team with ingredient magnet Pokemon. Have hit M18 on almost every island without any idea of what a good or bad skill set or rating Pokemon was. I mean, I think that's pretty reasonable. As of right now, with 70, if you can get max island bonus and just take the time, max out the level on your Pokemon, you can do really, really well. And realistically, the biggest drop-off for strength is from M19 to M20. So I think it's totally reasonable that this guy can reliably hit Master 18 with just random stuff and not knowing what's good or bad. It's really only when you're looking to Master 20. If you have your eyes set on Master 20, that's where you're going to really need to actually min-max the game in the current design of the game. And specifically for the last 2 islands. I've run some things before, and you can, on the first 4 islands, you can legitimately just run a very basic Pokemon. You don't necessarily even need sub-skills in nature. I can show the team sometime. But you can literally, I set up a team the other day that was all neutral nature, no sub-skill Pokemon. And just off of leveling a meal, leveling the Pokemon, and island bonus alone, you can hit Master 20 with a good camp ticket on from Greengrass to Snowdrop Tundra. The only ones that are limited on that are Lapis and Old Gold Power Plants. So, I'd be happy to show that off to you guys sometime if you want. Okay, also, I guess this is kind of spicy, maybe a 6, because it's interesting. Hot takes, oh, and then for this one, I don't know, I'll say like a 3. Okay, most of the time, the best use for a shiny Mon is the candy the professor gives you for sending them away. Diamonds are better spent elsewhere and not expanding your box space so you can keep your 6 shiny Wynots. I think this is my first one that I'm going to give a solid 10 out of 10 to for spiciness level, because they are 100% correct, but I hate it. Realistically, you don't need to keep 6 shiny Wynots. I've got shinies in my box that I'm never intending to use. But I keep them because they're shiny. So if we were heartless and could just transfer them, that would be more optimal, because we don't have to spend as many diamonds to keep them in the box. But they're sparkly, as this one commenter said. Greengrass should be berry locked to bug normal grass to give some new players direction. I disagree, just because that would... I think the whole idea is Greengrass is intended to be just kind of a smorgasbord. it doesn't necessarily give you direction, but once you get to Cyan, you can understand the direction of the game, and you can see the fixed berries going into it, I believe. If not, once you get there, you can see that it's fixed berries. So the direction should be not necessarily catching Butterfree, not necessarily catching Raticates, or catching Grass, Chikorita, because, I mean, those Pokemon don't necessarily need the buffs. Green Grass being random, I think, is very fitting, and it makes it more convenient for events that they're making Green Grass locked. So, I don't know. This one's probably like an 8 for spiciness level. Dream Shard Magnet is awesome. On downtime weeks, use a good cooking team to get Snorlax decently high level fast, then switch to Dream Shard Pokemon to farm the rest of the week. Best of both worlds when it comes to resource gathering. I'd agree. I've done plenty of videos and discussions talking about Dream Shard Magnet being completely viable for the sake of Dream Shard farming. The only real downside of Dream Shard Magnet as a skill is that it costs seeds, especially now that they have level 8 out. If you're not investing in one that already has skill level up it somewhere in the sub-skills, it's going to be rough to level up that Swalot to main skill level 8. You would need 6 seeds minimum, or 6 seeds, potentially 7 if you catch it as a Swalot for some reason. And then as a minimum, it would take 4, even if you have skill level PEM. Oh, I guess if you have both M and S, then it would take 3. But still, 3 main skill seeds to get it to max level and really be the best at its job. That's an expense, and that's the biggest thing, the biggest problem with Dream Shard Magnet. Not necessarily that it's not good, just the fact that it costs more, and a lot of people want to focus down their strength gains before they want to focus down Dream Shard Magnet. So I give this one a 7 out of 10 for spiciness. Don't care about berry bombs or sneaky snacking, and legendaries are overrated is the two that I'm seeing here. So berry bombing, I already kind of talked about that once before. It is kind of overrated. I mean, that's kind of spicy. Some of the community really loves their berry bombs. Sneaky snacking, yes, absolutely. Most of the time that people are sneaky snacking, it's probably not optimal. Most people that are just see sneaky snacking as a thing, if you're doing it below like level 40, it's probably not optimal. If I had to guesstimate, depends on the Pokemon. And if you don't have favorite berry, it's definitely not optimal on any berry specialist. And if you've invested main skill seeds into your berry specialist to make them more of a generalist role, then it's probably not optimal even with favorite berry. I ran that comparison on my Raichu before. Even at Old Gold Power Plant, if I have that main skill boost, it's a more significant loss than you can state. So, then what most sneaky snacking can overcome. It's kind of optimal in the right circumstance, but don't just... It shouldn't be oh, it's got favorite berry, so I will sneaky snack. It should be more of it's got favorite berry, so I'll consider sneaky snacking. That's the way that I think about sneaky snacking should be looked at. So, I'd say that these ones are probably especially hot takes to the community, probably like a 7 out of 10. And then legendaries are overrated. Now, probably partly because of berry bombs, but in general, they're just a huge gamble. Yes, I would agree they are not at all worth hunting now that the events are over. They're so rare and hard to catch even during an event, and cost so much just in hopes of getting lucky that I think most people should just catch a bunch of common stuff. Yeah, but during an event, it's fun to catch the event mon. Like, that's my biggest problem with this, is if it's during an event that they're boosted and you can get their incenses, go hard for it. Try to catch that event Pokemon. If you catch a good one, they're typically so good at what they do that they're worth the investment, if you catch a good one. Now, if the event is over, it's over. Don't worry about them. They're effectively not in the game to you. If you catch one, it's a box filler just to keep it in the box and look pretty, because the first one's not really that great. Unless you really want to use it, at level 100, it'll be alright. But level 100 is not even out yet, and probably won't be out for the next 3.5 years. So, yeah, the legendaries, as of right now, within their events, I think hunt them. It may cost a lot, and you theoretically can get other resources with the event exchange, but it's the point of those events. It's fun. It's a gamble, but gambling is fun. So, I give this one like an 8 out of 10 for spiciness, because I think the event of the legendary is what people rate well, not necessarily about their actual performance. The game should really have sleep scores graded on a curve. You should not get 100 for sleeping 10 plus hours. Yeah, that would make sense. Because sleeping too long is also a bad habit. So, or not a bad habit necessarily, but unhealthy. It's just difficult because some people genuinely sleep longer than others, and some people genuinely sleep shorter than others. So how do you properly grade it? I feel like it should be more about consistent sleep patterns. That, like, are you consistently getting the same score or the same duration every night? Than it is necessarily about getting a certain duration, because some people don't need as much. I can say this from experience. I naturally wake up after just 7 hours of sleep. I can't sleep longer than 7 hours, and I feel well rested, plenty well rested after just 7 hours of sleep. I could never sleep as long as the game expects me, because I physically just can't. And I don't want to get punished for that in game. Maybe that's wrong with me. I'll be honest about this, and this is one that I'm very open about. I spoof my sleep. I sleep longer. My Pokemon are actually sleeping right now. My Go Plus Plus is put to sleep as I'm recording this, because I just don't sleep that long. And I don't think it's necessarily fair to me that I have, because I feel like I'm still getting healthy sleep most of the time. Most of the time, I do make mistakes. I am human. So, I don't know. I think it should be more based off of, like, are you consistently getting the same average sleep? Are you going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time? Because I think that far more signifies good sleep habits than necessarily getting 8.5 hours of sleep every night, or getting too much sleep. It depends on who you are. I'm going to give this a 4 out of 10. Legendary should have lower badge requirement. That's mild as all get out. 1 out of 10. I 100% agree. That was my first thing that I noticed. I was like, why is the bronze badge for legendaries still set to 10 like every other Pokemon? It should, at the bare minimum, be 5. And why is it the same as fully evolved 3-stage Pokemon? I think I encounter way more Raichus than I ever encounter Raikou. Like, what? And then also Raikou costs way more pips than what a Raichu does. Sure, I'm not catching Raichu if I see it. I'm not even feeding it if I see it unless it's hungry. So, I don't know. This is like a 1 out of 10 for spiciness. 2 principles, because they've been playing since Pokemon Red. Mechanics that shape the habits, even if it sometimes makes little sense in sleep. Never keep duplicate Pokemon. That's a very interesting one. Whenever it gets a new one, I immediately release the weaker one. I want variety and like to make... Okay, this is a fun thing. I can see that. Because it is kind of boring to have multiple of the same Pokemon on the same team. And consistently doing that. So I understand it. Even though it's definitely suboptimal, it's a matter of fun. Do what you find fun. Don't want to use Legendary or Mythical Pokemon simply because I got used to avoiding them in the mainline games. Legendaries is cheating, and they're usually banned anyway. I get that. I get the first, and that's it. Never use it. I mean, okay. I can understand the mindset of they're too powerful in the mainline games, but at the same time, there is something about when the game gifts you a Legendary. But if you're having fun playing that game and going that way, then sure enough, have fun with it. Keep doing what you're doing. But realistically, with how difficult it is to catch a good Legendary, most likely, if you're investing in a Legendary, it's probably a suboptimal decision. Unless you just got tremendously lucky. So, I don't think there's necessarily an extra challenge by avoiding Legendaries in this game. Now, we'll have to see with Darkrai, because we don't know how the mythical event's going to turn out once we actually learn more about Darkrai. But we'll see. Only time will tell on that one. In contrast to the mainline games, I like Ingredient Pokemon the most. I hate Berrymon, so boring. This, I heavily disagree with. Not because I hate Ingredient Pokemon. I like Ingredient Pokemon. I think it's interesting. But honestly, I think Berry Pokemon... I think this is actually not a very spicy take, because I've seen a lot of people say they hate Berry Pokemon. Personally, I think Berry Pokemon are tremendously more interesting, because the whole concept of them is... you're using them for the raw strength. If you're running just Berry Pokemon, yeah, that's boring, that's dull. But if you find a way to integrate Berry Pokemon into your ingredient-focused teams that can still make the strongest meals, that takes far, far more consideration than just running ingredient specialists that can make the strongest meals. It's not that difficult to be like, okay, this meal takes 4 ingredients, and I have 4 mono-ingredient specialists. I'm just gonna run them. Like, that's just as boring, in my opinion, as berry Pokemon, as running 4 of the same berry specialist, or 4 favorite berry Pokemon. But if you can find a way to either, like, swap the first 2 slots between the Pokemon that you need to make the right ingredients, or use some mixed ingredient lists in there to get the right ingredients, or like supplement with the berry Pokemon. That is way more interesting. It's not a problem with berry Pokemon. It's not a problem with Berrymons. It's a problem with berry teams. And I will 100% agree that berry teams are boring. But I think ingredient teams that are just ingredient teams are also just as boring in my mind. It's about finding a nice, delicate balance, and that's my playstyle. But anyway, love abilities that are based on randomness. I love them too. Metronome is, in my opinion, the most fun skill in the game. Even though I haven't invested in Metronome Pokemon, I still think it's the most fun. I'm just too much of a min-maxer to actually invest in because I like reliability and I like being able to plan ahead. And you can't plan ahead with Metronome. So, I like it. I think they're awesome and fun, but I probably will never invest one. I often go by appearance and personal appeal in sleep, ignoring whether Pokemon's actually good. That's just a playstyle thing. It's not really a hot take. So I'm only moderately interested in min-maxing. Once again, playstyle. You can play how you want to play, and I think a lot of people have that idea. The problem only comes about when a min-maxer tries to force their min-maxy ideas onto a non-min-maxer. That's toxic. Sorry, I got a drink. It's water. Alrighty, all Pokemon should be 5-pick catches. I guess, I mean, no. Yes and no. I think there is a balancing element to it. I think that Legendaries should be less than 30 after their events and during their events. Actually, overall, I think Legendaries should be cheaper. That's one thing I could agree with. But all Pokemon being 5-pip catches, there is a balance to strike. Like, Weavile is one of the most powerful Pokemon in the game. There's a reason why it's 16 pips. The devs didn't do that. Like, that is by design. Onix, Steelix, some of the most powerful berry specialists in the game as well. Dedenne, it is one of the most powerful skill specialists in the game. All these Pokemon, and actually all the Pokemon that have Tasty Chance S, all take 16 pips. I think that is by design, for balance sake. So, do I think that's the case? No. But how hot of a take do I think this is? I'll give it a solid 6. And then up here, I guess I kind of skipped past this one. This is probably like a 7. This is probably like a 9, because I think most people would use a Legendary, even if it is suboptimal, just because some people find it more fun to use a Legendary. But in this game, they're not actually that powerful. They are powerful if you catch a good one, but because of how random sub-skills can be, it's crazy. Okay, weekly mission rewards for incense should be lower than Master 3 while you're under 20% bonus for an island. I could agree with that. That's more of a game suggestion than a hot take. I'm going to give it like a 2 out of 10. Darkrai is the best no matter what. I mean, that's a personal opinion sort of thing. The numbers will really tell if it actually is the best. But if you love it, use it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's playstyle. Min-maxing is silly and doing it misses the point of a chill, silly little game. Once again, this is playstyle. I think the devs recognize that they have a min-maxing community. I think the devs also recognize that they have primarily a casual community. And they designed the game around both. If you are to tell people that they should not min-max because it is just a chill, silly little game, then you are being arguably just as toxic as the min-maxers who say you have to have the best Pokemon, you have to have the best Pokemon. Both people that are trying to force a casual playstyle on min-maxers, and min-maxers trying to force a min-maxy playstyle on casual players, that's just as toxic. Let each other play the game how you want to play. I'm a min-maxer, but I will never tell someone... I will only give advice on min-maxing if somebody is asking for advice on min-maxing. Or are in a community focused around min-maxing. Sleep more, your body needs it. I mean, yeah, always sleep. That's pretty fair. Making an app that stresses you out whether you'll sleep well or not is counterproductive. I mean, I don't think this game really stresses you out whether or not you'll sleep well. Most people that are stressed out about it probably just fake their sleep anyway. And if you don't... I mean, whether or not you sleep, it's about how long you sleep. It's not about how well you sleep. The only thing that changes then is sleep style, which sometimes you want dozing sleep. So I give this just a confusing out of 10. Oh, and up here, I'll give this like a invalid out of 10 because it's kind of toxic. Okay, if no Mew by Christmas, I quit. I mean, you're probably going to have to quit. I'll admit that. I don't know if we'll get another mythical within this year, so I hate to break it to you, but if it happens, I'd be surprised. I'd love it. I'd be pleasantly surprised, but I'd be surprised. I'm not going to rate... Well, okay, I'll give it 6... I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10 for spicy level. Just because I think the game has so much to offer that you don't need Mew for it to be fun. Okay, most gold skills are pretty good if you're a bad sleeper. That's honestly fair. Healers are generally not worth it. Hottest take. Yeah, that is a hot take right then and there. I mean, there's a lot of math that kind of points to it. Healers are pretty worth it. You can't really reach the highest of strengths without a healer. And the big thing is, not necessarily do you need a healer to reach the highest of strengths. Maybe not. You might be able to build a team that doesn't require a healer and still reach tremendous levels of strength. But it's arguably going to take more effort and rarer sub-skills than if you just put in a decent healer. Because healing is that impactful in this game. So it's like, what's the trade-off? Work extra hard to not use a healer, or just use a healer and submit to the meta of healing? So yeah, I'll give that one a 10 out of 10 for hot take, honestly. This one up here, whatever I said for the other gold skill comments. Hot take, 2 level 60 Togekicks go bird. I mean, I think it's fun, once again. Is it optimal? No, but it's fun. 3 out of 10. Recipes should gain 1 level every time you cook them, not based on XP. Honestly, I really like this idea, but this is more, like I said, of a game suggestion than a hot take. I think most players would probably generally agree with this. It is annoying to level up early game. Yeah, like this person's kind of saying. Because the first, like, couple times you make it, it levels up like 4 to 6 levels. But I think that it overall, this is probably for the better, because then you could actually level up the lower level meals. So I'll give this like a 2 out of 10 for spiciness. Mints are a bad idea. Breeding fits more the slow style of the game. And then the base shiny rate. I don't think anyone's really had discussions about the shiny rate, and I don't know. There hasn't really been full-fledged research. There's been some research for it, but honestly, I think all the research that's been done for shiny rate, and they actually discuss a little bit about the source and study for the shiny rate, but it's not really settled. Some people say 1 in 450, but honestly, we don't know. So this one I give a question mark out of 10. Mints are a bad idea. It does not fit the slow style of this game. I 100% agree, but in terms of the community, this is probably like a 9 out of 10 hot take. To me, this is like a 1 out of 10 because I 100% agree. There should be no mints. XP down and skill level up are horrible. I agree with the... Well, okay, not horrible. Neither of them are horrible. It's interesting this person hates XP down, but also hates skill level up when the XP gains up would be the equivalent of this. So, like, they're saying it's horrible to have XP gains down and invest more into your Pokemon, but it's horrible to have skill level up to invest less into your Pokemon. So, I just don't know. This person is completely... They're, like, flipped. They're backwards. They disagree and agree with themselves. I don't know what they're thinking. I'm going to give that a 10 out of 10 for spiciness because that's just confusing me. How they can hate XP gains down, but also hate skill level up. Because they both... Yeah, skill level up makes your Pokemon cheaper, and XP gains down makes them more expensive. So if you hate them getting more expensive, why do you also hate them getting cheaper? What? Whatever. Legendaries aren't good unless you're berry bombing with the beasts. Depends on the legendary, honestly, and depends on where. I'm running my Entei right now in my attempt for M20 at top because after running a bunch of analysis, it looked like it was going to be the best. Because running with my Typhlosion, they actually produce more strength than other things. Granted, I have a really good Entei, really good Entei, and it also depends on your sub-skills in nature. But I think also Cress is tremendously underrated for this, so I'm going to give this, in terms of the community, probably like a 4 or 5 out of 10, somewhere in there. Ingredient Pokemon that bring... This is more mixed ingredients. I've already kind of talked about this. Eevee is incredibly overrated. Oh man, people in the community would probably hate this. Probably like a 7 out of 10 for the community. Also, this person says Vaporeon isn't the only one that doesn't get outclassed by any of their Pokemon. But late gaming... That's actually wrong. That used to be the case, but then they buffed Heracross, and Heracross actually ever so slightly outproduces it. Like, we're talking about like less than 1%, but it technically is slightly better. So even Vaporeon is outclassed by something else. Okay. The way people evaluate Pokemon is wrong. I'll get to this part in some other video, because that seems kind of interesting. I still need to look into this calculator before I get into that. Hot take. The way people evaluate Pokemon is wrong. There should be a way to calculate the return on investment on biscuits, candy, etc. rather than fixed Berrymon without Berry Finding S is useless. I think this is actually possible to calculate, just not with the tools we have today. Well, I disagree to an extent. I agree and disagree. We should be able to evaluate return on investment, because return on investment is incredibly important. If you have to catch 20 Sneasel before you catch one with Berry Finding S, then with it being a 16-pip Pokemon, the return on investment is going to be tremendously low. But if in that same time and same amount of biscuits, you could have caught, say, a Berry Finding S Totodile and a Berry Finding S Help Bonus Typhlo or Cyndaquil, and invested them up to level 60 in the same time, then yeah, that's going to be tremendously more valuable. But return on investment isn't always the best metric to go by. It's just one metric we should be considering. Because realistically, let's consider hypothetical. Let's say for one morning, the professor steps in and just gives you a Pokemon. You don't even have to give it a biscuit, you just get it. And it's a Pokemon that can produce 1,000 berry strength per day. But if you level it up to level 60 by running it for, let's say, 20 nights, it'll make double that. 2,000 strength per day. Is that worth it? The investment really is just 20 nights of sleep. That's pretty much nothing in terms of this game. But for 2,000 strength per night, that's not really all that useful. So, meanwhile, even if I just have to give it 5 Pokebiscuits, I'd much rather take something that has Berry Finding S over that, and they can produce like 60,000 strength per day, than just the 2,000. Because the team slot is also opportunity cost. Early game, return on investment is huge. But late game, you're willing to narrow it down and focus a bit more on what costs more, even if the return on investment is very slim, because what else are you hunting? You already have the stuff that is equal to you, so why do you need... You only are looking for the things that are better, because realistically then everything else that is weaker than the threshold that you're already at isn't a return on investment, because you're never going to actually use those things, because you already have what's up here. So, I think that it's too difficult to really calculate. I don't think it is possible. I'm going to give this a 8 out of 10. ABA, AAB, this is more mixed ingredients list. Talked about that. Too much stats involved in trying to understand how to min-max the game. Keep understanding general, because brain turns off as soon as you start throwing numbers around, even after almost 2 years of straight up playing the game. Can't get deep into min-maxing. There's no rush to reach the highest levels, again, after almost 2 straight years of playing the game. I maybe have one Pokemon above level 50. There's fun in swapping guys around and trying different teams. People care too much about free candy they can get from their friends. I mean, if you like being... Once again, this is a playstyle thing. If you like min-maxing the game and trying to get every little strength out of it, there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to play like this guy, there's nothing wrong with that. 3 out of 10 for Spicy. Continue to... This is more mixed ingredient stuff. Yeah, there's more mixed ingredient stuff. These people trying to use Raynon and other tiers, following them to get your mons. Following them will get your mons nerfed because it's not the playstyle that the devs want you to focus. I actually disagree with this last part. Because I don't think the devs are looking to nerf existing playstyles. I think that they nerf berries, add recipes, tweak skills. They never nerfed berries. They nerfed the energy mechanic because there used to be an exploit that when you went to sleep, it would just act as if you had 100% energy when you didn't. So berry strength was like tremendously more powerful because you would just sneaky snack all night long, not having to worry about the energy. Made energy for everyone healers a lot less necessary. Add recipes. This isn't necessarily a nerf to recipes that currently exist. It's just a buff to other Pokemon and tweak skills. They've never nerfed a skill. They don't nerf skills. They only ever buff what is weaker. So it's not getting things nerfed. It's more getting other options buffed. And I think my favorite example of this is if we look back to the ribbon update. The ribbon update. A lot of people thought ribbons would bring like extra frequency to your Pokemon or extra something that would help every Pokemon in the game. But then a lot of players actually complained because it only added inventory to Pokemon that slept with your team for long enough, thus incentivizing Pokemon that actually need inventory to be the Pokemon that you sleep with, which at that point it was very heavily focused around berry Pokemon being slept with for sneaky snacking purposes. But the only Pokemon that care about inventory are your ingredient specialists and your skill specialists. So it's a way to get around that and make it so that it's actually worthwhile to sleep with your skill specialist and ingredient specialist and counteract the effects of sneaky snacking so that becomes an actual viable strategy. They don't go about it by nerfing what's good. They go about it by buffing what is weak. And I don't think they've ever nerfed something, genuinely. They've corrected bugs, that is true, but they've never nerfed something. Sometimes, and I'll give that like a 7 out of 10 for spicy. Sometimes people can just enjoy finally getting their favorite shiny. Yeah, I mean, this is more just casual versus... Yeah, there's a lot of elitism in the sleep community over good Pokemon, and it's disappointing when sometimes people just play the Pokemon game and sleep to collect their favorites. Once again, if someone's showing off a shiny, if there are people out there that someone makes a shiny post and says, "Look at my shiny," and then the first comment says, "Why would you care? It's got bad sub skills." If someone's doing that, yeah, downvote that person. They're being toxic. But I think a lot of the community would agree with this assessment of, if you like your shiny, yeah, invest, even if it's got bad sub skills. Because shinies are rare, and that's honestly more fun. So I'm going to give this like a 2 out of 10. When people talk about stuff in Pokemon Sleep, they automatically start abbreviating and initializing words and phrases like we're all supposed to know what they mean. Once again, a part of that is because if you're browsing the subreddits every single day and responding to 20... Let's say you're on the weekend. It's the weekend and you're seeing 20 Rate My Mon Pokemon posts. Or Rate My Mon posts in the subreddit. Do you want to write out research XP bonus every single time you're writing about it? Or even just helping bonus? That's a lot of extra characters. I don't think it's any problem abbreviating. If someone doesn't know, just ask. What is that abbreviation? Extra helpful, but not helper boost. Should carry a chance to proc skills of teammates. I think this is more of a suggestion than a hot take, and once again, I agree. I've actually thought about this before, and I actually disagree with this, because I think helper boost should actually also do it. I think that'd be kind of cool to get chains. And realistically, the legendary beasts aren't that good right now, aside from for the purposes of berry bombing, and that might give them just what they need. The diamonds are too freaking expensive. Play Pokemon Go. Also, ever so often I toss real running to buy their coins, or I will buy an event. The diamonds are given in such small numbers, the bundle costs so many of them. Yeah, realistically, if you're looking to buy every single bundle, it is expensive. But I think that's just for the Mega Whales. I don't even look at the bundles because I know that they're that expensive. But if people are buying them, they're there to fund the game. And realistically, you don't deserve a bundle. The devs get to give you whatever they want in terms of the bundles. If people are paying for it, then people are paying for it. And that's not necessarily scummy. Because you don't need those resources. You do plenty fine with just the premium pass. I say that as someone who hardly ever pays for bundles, and I have paid for like the trial bundles. The trial bundles I think are a pretty good deal, but maybe that's just being desensitized to the cost of the regular bundles. But you don't need the bundles. If you needed the bundles to progress, I'd agree. But I think that without this, if people are buying it, then let the people buy it, you know? I'm going to give that a 5 out of 10. Spamming friend invites until your friend list contains 50 random sweaters from the subreddit takes part of the fun away. This is probably one of the hottest takes in here. I'm giving this a 10 out of 10, just because that is very spicy. Because how does it take part of the fun away? Like, genuinely. You just click the button, get a bunch of candies, and click away. If you want your friends in there, like your actual real-life friends, and just want to actually click through and see what all your friends saw, then cool. But that doesn't take apart any of the fun, at least for me. Maybe it does for you, and if it does for you, then you know what? Don't add people from the subreddit. Done. You're not forced to. Okay, what's this comment? Oh, healers are not needed and Pokemon don't have to be perfect stats to get you to M20. This is actually true. Like I said, you can get to Master 20 with the current level caps and Island Bonus. Oh, things just refreshed. Well, I'm talking about that, so... oh, what? Oh, okay. Yeah, and you don't necessarily need a healer to reach M20. You can get all the way to... Lapis Lakeside and Old Gold Power Plant is the only point where I don't know if that's possible. But, yeah, well, that's it for the Reddit. Let's take a look at my YouTube comments. Now, this one's going to be a little bit less. And then we'll have a third source here after this. Mints will never be a thing. Probably. I don't know. Who knows? I think it might be a thing just because the community pushes for it so much. I don't want it to be a thing, but it could be. People use login frequency as an excuse, but they really are just too afraid to use Golduck. I don't think anyone's afraid to use Golduck. People just don't want to spend the seeds. Sorry, Ivan Brown. It's about return on investment. And if you have a good Golduck, invest in it and use it. If you see a Psyduck in your early game and don't know what else to catch it. Use it. It's a good Pokemon. It's just... use what you catch. If you don't catch a Golduck, don't try to use a Golduck. The best Pokemon game. I've played every main series game and I love these games. This is probably a pretty hot take. Oh, also, I forgot to say, this is probably like a 4. And this is probably... I don't even know how to rate this. I'm just going to scroll past that. Best Pokemon game... their favorite game in the series of all time. However, I love the nuanced strategy and intricacies of this slow and deliberate gameplay. It's comparing apples to oranges, and they're both equally great, but Sleep is literally slept on by the Poke community as a whole. That is spitting straight bars right there. That is so accurate. The game should be a lot bigger than it actually is. It's phenomenal. I love it. Maybe I'm biased, but I'm going to give this... well, in terms of the Sleep community, this is probably a... like... 3 out of 10 hot take. If you were to say this to the Pokemon community as a whole, it'd probably be like a 10 out of 10. Implementing a trading system would probably bring along downsides like making the game more pay to win, like people paying real money for a good Pokemon, and giving people more reasons to want to try and hack into the game, kind of like Pogo. For those reasons, I'm fine with this feature not being added into the game. I think that trading... yes, it probably would bring the downsides of people paying real money for good Pokemon. Like, that's just gonna happen. I think, and I don't know what it would take to hack the game, but from what I understand, and I'm not a whole computer science expert, so I could be wrong about this, but from what I've heard, it's very server end. So I'm not sure there really would be a good way to hack it and, like, generate fake Pokemon. But maybe they could. Who knows? And it would definitely give more, people trying to do that for sure. I would love to see it still, though. Definitely would take... it would have to be expensive, and I feel like they would have... in order for it to be balanced, I feel like it would have to re-roll the sub-skills to some extent in the trading process, so you couldn't just trade good Pokemon for good Pokemon. Even though that's really what you want. It would have to be useless. Like... here's my Cresselia from an event years ago that I never invested because it had terrible stats. Here, I'll allow you to take it to reroll the stats. And then I'll take your shiny Mareep because I never caught a shiny Mareep. Like, things like that. If it transfers stats over, I feel like that would get abused. And definitely would speed up the progression of the game because then, like, oh, I've got a good Gulpin, you've got a good Raichu. I haven't invested in a Raichu, you haven't invested in a Gulpin. Here, let's trade, because I already have a team of these. That's naturally going to speed up the progression of game for both players. And the game doesn't necessarily need speeding up, so I understand the downsides to trading. But at the same time, I think it can be fun and be a cool form of community interaction. I'm going to give this an 8 out of 10 for spicy level. I think everyone should have at least one home base, or home island that they have fantastic Pokemon for and can reliably do really well for events. An island like this would also be nice to go during off weeks to collect Dream Shards / prep for events and still do decently well. I agree with this. I kind of have done this on my own account with Old Gold Power Plant, kind of doing it with Lapis as well, so that I have 2 home base islands. That second part was kind of unintentional. I think this is more of a quick tip than a hot take. So I'm giving this a 2 out of 10. Level up Snorlax all week to get better spawns, but evolve Pokemon cost more biscuits and have worse stats. Very true, and probably very spicy. I'm giving this a 9 out of 10, but very true. It's not necessarily to get better spawns, it's to get better sleep styles, and rarer sleep styles for more Dream Shards, which give us more candies to level up the Pokemon we're currently already have caught. If you are trying to catch Pokemon, though, it's probably better to be just enough to get 8 spawns and then nothing more. Running a semi-full Sleep XP team each night might save you more Dream Shards than a dedicated power team would. It's just that you wouldn't notice because you wouldn't have spent them on leveling. So, this could be the case. I'm not going to do the math. You haven't done the math either. But, the problem is, Sleep XP bonus only gives 14% more XP. And it's giving that to, theoretically, if you're using a dedicated Sleep XP team, that implies that you aren't running Pokemon that you otherwise care about leveling already. And if that's the case, then realistically you're taking 1 team slot out, putting in a Pokemon to get 14% more XP on the other 4 Pokemon. If you're doing that, then that is less than 100% XP, which you'd actually get more XP and candies worth from just running a 5th Pokemon you want to level. So, maybe, my response to this is maybe, if the Sleep XP Pokemon you're running are things you also want to level. If they're not things you want to level, then it is strictly worse to do this than just running 5 Pokemon that you want to level and get the Sleep XP built up on. Everyone should have a team that has high inventory, ingredient berry or skill, that they can run and not have to open the app for more than once or twice a day to collect. That way they can take a breather and still play the game. May not advance as fast, but it'll be good for mental health, or we get stupid busy for a day or 2 or 3 and won't have time to get into it. You know, very fair. The thing is, I think that you can get a decently big inventory on most Pokemon if you just evolve them from base level, and get a good ribbon on them just by using them all the time. So, you don't necessarily need the inventory sub-skills. I'm going to give this one up here, like, I'm going to give it like a 7 out of 10, because I think if you're saying what I think you're saying, it's strictly wrong. And if this one is saying what I think it's saying, I'm going to give it like a 4 out of 10, because it focuses on mental health, but at the same time, you might not necessarily need what's being suggested. If you want more Dream Shards, it's better to switch in a full Dream Shard Magnet team and a healer, or if after reaching 8 spawns on an island. That's very true. I pretty much proved that in my Dream Shard Magnet video. Or if, well, not necessarily 8 spawns. Technically, it's not about spawns. That's a kind of a misconception in the community. It's not about spawns, it's about drowsy power. And the flat lines occur not necessarily at 8 spawns, they occur much later. But anyway, or if you care about cooking missions, 3 times Dream Shard Magnet, Vaporeon, Heracross, and Healer. And they don't have to be broken. Bonus, you get first stage evolution catches. Master 1, oh yeah. You still get about 15,000 Dream Shards, not including Research XP. Yeah, you still do get significant amounts. It depends on your Swallots, though, or it depends on your Dream Shard Magnet Pokemon, depends on how much Research XP, instances of Research XP you have. Realistically, Dream Shard Magnet, or Dream Shard farming is one of the most complicated topics in the game, which is why I have 2 whole videos dedicated to it on this channel. Kind of 3, actually. So, but realistically, yes. If you are doing a dichotomy of reaching 8 spawns and running the Dream Shard Magnet Pokemon, or reaching 8 spawns and then continue to run a strong team, yeah, running the Dream Shard Magnet Pokemon is definitely better. Ingredients list on a berry Pokemon is almost at least 60% as important as ingredients on Ingredient Specialist. Mono Berry Finding Raichu is better than ABC Berry Finding Help Speed M plus Help Speed S Raichu. I highly disagree with this. I mean, I guess this one I give it 10 out of 10, because I just don't want to be bothered with catching an ingredient spread on a berry specialist. I do think that some ingredient spreads are superior than others. I really don't like the C ingredient. I really don't like the eggs on the Raichu. I think it does drag it down because a big part of Raichu's potential is that it has apples and ginger, which is one of the most synergistic combos for ingredients in the game. That's one of the things that makes it strong and kind of slept on. Kind of slept on. A lot of people still use it for its berries, but people don't realize its ingredient potential. Anyway, Mono is definitely better, but I wouldn't put it above Help Speed M and Help Speed S. It's still very good, though. Now, there was someone who responded saying I liked ABC on... I don't know what this person is saying. Like, they're saying they prefer it. I've seen this promoted by another content creator on the platform, and the whole idea is just... I think it's just to, like, get filler or use random ingredients. The only benefit that I can see is it's more likely that on an ABC list, the ingredient, that at least one of the ingredients is going to be used in the base meal. But I way prefer a mono list as to an ABC list on berry specialists, just because they're more likely to contribute a reliable portion of a meal's strength. I actually think I like mono builds more on berry specialists than on ingredient specialists. Now, I wouldn't invest in a berry specialist for a mono list, but if it's there, I like it more than if a mono list on an ingredient specialist, just because it's more likely to actually contribute a significant portion of a meal's strength. Meanwhile, an ingredient specialist is so good at producing its ingredients that it can produce 2 ingredients at once, and that's why, and cover both those ingredients in the same amount of time if it has a mixed list. A berry specialist definitely cannot do that on its own with just like a mixed list. An ingredient specialist can do that, which is why I think that I actually prefer... I think every berry specialist in the game, if I could choose my ingredient spread on them, almost all of them would be a mono list or an ABB list. No questions asked there. Spending at least 1,500 of your first diamonds on bundles to accelerate your catching and team building is way better than rushing ingredient space. You don't have ingredient producers to use it too effectively anyways. I disagree with this. I'm going to put this at like 7 out of 10. My whole reasoning why I disagree with it is because, sure, you don't have the ingredient producers to use it too effectively anyways. But the bag space isn't for the ingredient specialists. The bag space is to stockpile ingredients so that way you can use more ingredients on the weeks that matter most by not running ingredient specialists. So you may not have the ingredient producers, but you can stockpile more ingredients so that you don't need the ingredient producers. That's arguably more important. So I think the reasoning there is not necessarily the best. And also it depends on the bundles. If it's a bundle that has a main skill seed, then maybe it's worth consideration. But typically those are the most pricey ones. So I think the bundles are kind of trap options, and getting the ingredient bag space is of utmost importance. Too much importance on getting perfect Pokemon. Again, this is just a sort of a playstyle thing. I don't recommend trying to... Yeah, just go for above average. Running 2 Dedenne to max level will outperform any 2 berry specialists. I would say this is just straight up misinformation. Sorry here, but probably like 10 out of 10 for spiciness. Just because... Okay. Dedenne is a weird Pokemon. The math behind its main skill just says, if you do the math for its main skill, it is capped at a certain amount of output. If you assume like the strongest average meals right now, before you take into account crits, you can get probably about maybe 200,000 strength after you account for all modifiers considered, if you're not using pod expanders and getting more filler in there. 200,000 strength. Realistically, a Dedenne can only ever contribute... Any amount of Dedenne you put on the team can only ever bring your crit chance, if you throw Sundays out the window, up to 80% with a base rate of 10%. That means only 70% of meals will they actually make a difference. So you do the 0.7 times... You can get about 600,000 strength per day, theoretically, off of it. Then they're at a maximum potential output of 420,000 per day off of Dedenas altogether. If you're splitting that across 2 Dedenas, sure, that's 210,000 per Dedena. But that's also, like, sure, that's more, but that's assuming that you're constantly getting 2 maximum crit chance after every time you crit before you feed the next meal. That's assuming that you're actually getting 80% of meals to crit. That's assuming that you wouldn't have otherwise crit anyway because it was in that 10%. Like, there's too many RNG factors to really play into there. And a berry specialist with berry fighting S and favored berry. And that's also a maximum. I've seen before where my helping bonus, berry fighting S Pokemon, can raise my team's output by a single Pokemon. I've seen like 170,000 in their output, and that's like reliable output when considering for their ingredients, berries, when you're using them properly. So, no. And also, running 1 Dedena will probably outrank that. Running the second Dedena's value is tremendously decreased compared to the first Dedena. You get way less value. I wouldn't ever recommend investing up to Dedena. Ever. Especially because that's expensive. They take a lot of seeds. Too much Pokemon Sleep content focuses on the late game when most people playing the game aren't anywhere near that. Love your vids, by the way. Well, thanks for the love your vids, by the way. I would honestly agree. I will admit it. I focus on the late game, but I think a big part of that is because even when I was early game, I focused on the late game. I know when I started off, yeah, there is a practicality to focus on the early game and think about what's useful to you right here and now. But I think a lot of players want to think about the late game because it's the thing that you're arguably going to be in for the longest amount of time. If you consider yourself to be early game within just 1 year, if we think of 5 years away as being the late game, let's say level 100 in 3.5 years. I threw that number out there earlier. And you have Pokemon at level 100. If you want to play the game for 10 years, now I don't know how long this game is going to run. I'd hope it runs that long, but I don't know. Then that is most of the time that you're going to be playing the game. And I'm willing to make investments that late. I think most people are willing to look to that far ahead in the game because that is something that is more interesting to think about. It's more synergistic, and especially when it comes to level 60. Level 60 is not that far away these days. I started the sleepers back like 6-7-ish months ago. I don't even know, maybe even 5 months ago. And I'm already at a point where I have 1 Pokemon at level 53. I wouldn't be surprised if within the next 3 months, I get that 1 Pokemon to level 60. If I had to guess. That's not guaranteed, but it's something that's achievable if you know how to make your investments right. So, I think that's why. Because level 60 is what the game is kind of designed for as its late game. I do like to discuss the early game stuff, though, because there is more interesting stuff there for a lot, much more applicable stuff for a lot of players. And I do agree that a lot of content is focused on the late game. And I will admit that I am guilty of that for many of my videos. Skill level up M is the second worst gold skill behind energy recovery bonus. If I'm investing in a Pokemon, I'd rather the slot be occupied by something else rather than 2 free seeds that I just can wait a month to buy. Oh, also this last one I gave like a 4 out of 10 for spicy. Skill level of M being the second worst. I think it depends on who you are. If you're free to play, then this is definitely a 10 out of 10 hot take because those seeds are very, very expensive. For a premium player, I can understand that. But I don't think it's necessarily all that hot. Maybe like a 3 out of 10. Then investing in ABC list ingredient specialists. I've got an ABC Tyranitar. Interesting that this person says this with a shiny Larvitar. I've got one. I wouldn't recommend it unless you have the right team to support it. It works for me. It probably won't work for you. Unless you have the right team to support it. So, Aiden Slash, if you want to message me, I can talk about the advantages of ABC Tyranitar and the downsides, because I have personal experience with it. Anyway, finally, Discord. I sent out a lot. You guys sent in a lot of these, and I wanted to go through all of them. So, Hot take. Skill trigger rates aren't as accurate as we think. People getting 0 to 2 triggers on skill specialists with a skill trigger up nature. Plus that is absolutely absurd. That's mostly just RNG, but there is something to that because there's also check time. Rain on X by default does not take into account check time, and if it is taking into account check time, it's probably underestimating it if you are reporting your check time accurately. Because, it doesn't actually have the logic for double banking as far as I'm aware. They might have corrected that, but last I heard they hadn't accounted for the logic for double banking. So, it can happen that you get 0 to 2 triggers. It probably shouldn't happen that they're getting 0, actually, because of the pity proc system. But, yeah, this can happen. It's RNG. But there are also just days that you can theoretically get 15, but you're not seeing that because you're not collecting all 15. So, it's hard to see. It's hard to imagine. Ingredient Specialist with matching berry finding S, even with an IF down nature, can be more optimal than a mono ingredient specialist. With matching berry finding... Okay, so I can see where they're coming from in that it's producing more raw strength. But I guess the problem here is that why not just run a berry finding S berry specialist instead? Or hunt not even a berry finding S version of that Pokemon, but just that Pokemon as a berry specialist. It's going to do that job better. So, and if it's got like ingredient finding down, then what it can do, the role it can specialize in is the ingredients. So, I guess like up here I give this like a 5 out of 10. This one's probably like a 9 out of 10 for Spice. Hot take, there will be another island unveiled in summer, and then every other year after that until we reach 10. I mean, this is more just speculation, not really hot takes. I give it like a 3 out of 10. In summer, I mean, okay, we'd be set to get one in like mid to late July, based off the timing between Lapis and Old Gold Power Plant. And then after that, every other year, who knows what their island schedule plan is after that point. I think they'll keep along the same lines of like islands being released. And I would like to actually see out to 12. I would like to see 2 sets of so that each berry actually does something unique. Umbreon will be made whole with another update to its main skill. I'm just hoping that's the case. I don't think it'll become the best evolution. I still think it's always going to be a niche. 8 out of 10 Spice. Trading between players will be introduced in 2027. Nothing to the future to not disrupt the current game mechanics. I don't know if trading's ever going to be implemented. It just feels too difficult to implement. But if it is introduced, I could see it being really far away. I'm going to give that like a 6 out of 10. There will be another way or method to farm candies, of which exactly I don't have the idea, but gameplay throughout the day will be encouraged by doing certain actions that could lead to producing candies more readily for a Pokemon on the field. Maybe. I could just see them adjusting current game mechanics. Let's say if they took the daytime candy productivity and just made it 3 candies a day. That could be the case. I think that could maybe be the case. I think they'll give us more ways of getting more candy later on. Especially since it helps early game players more than late game players. In terms of actually leveling up their Pokemon. It helps them more to catch up. So I do think that this is realistic. 1 out of 10 for Spicy. Focusing Berry is much better than focusing Dishes unless there's a 1.5x multiplier on it. I feel like all players need to focus Berries first and then go for Meals second. To an extent, I like my balanced approach. I think that it's important to try and find, like, see what the best strength meal you can get with 1 or 2 ingredient specialists is. See if you can push it a little bit further by synergizing with the berry specialists that you have. And then do that. But giving into just meals and meals alone, I think there's more opportunity cost there than a lot of players realize. Using Mr. Mime as a mimic support, who is built for skill triggers rather than ingredients, on a Crest team rules, actually. I mean, I don't think anyone would necessarily disagree with that statement. It's just unconventional. And you need to have a Cresselia and be someone who's willing to have a good Cresselia to pair it with as well. So, I'll give it like a 5 out of 10. It will... Hey, will be that it will pay off to have saved all my catches because they'll introduce something that will make it beneficial. I mean, maybe. They do have a tendency to buff things, but then there are Pokemon that they've just ignored completely, like poor Marowak. I feel bad for Marowak. It desperately needs a buff. They also need a buff Primeape, in my opinion. In its current state, it's just a worse Meganium, and there's really not much of a difference. So, like, there are some Pokemon they've completely ignored so far. So I'm not necessarily sure that every Pokemon will eventually be useful, because even the ones that have gotten buffs haven't necessarily gotten useful, but oh well. I give that like a 6 out of 10. It's better to run a full invested Dream Shard Magnet team with a healer. Oh, this is actually the same comment as before. So, yeah. Stop sending Eevee candy. All Eevee evolutions are mid at best, and they appear on literally every field, so everyone already gets more than enough Eevee candy on their own. Yeah, I mean, pretty true. But at the same time, people who are investing multiple evolutions, which there are some people that are doing that, I'm kind of that way. I'm investing a Flareon and an Espeon, and I also have a Vaporeon that I don't really invest in, but I do have. It takes a lot to invest in 3 Pokemon, so I think that it's like there's a reason to do it, but it's definitely not one of my top priorities. I give this like a 4 out of 10. Don't stop sending Eevee candies. I need them badly. Basically what I just said. XP natures, both up and down, are dismissed too easily. It's really not fair to compare 2 specimens at the same level. Yeah, but it is. Like, it is, but it isn't. If you're willing to invest it all the way up, then it is fair to make the comparison with XP down or XP up. Like me, I get my Pokemon to max level. A lot of my Pokemon are max level right now. I have an XP gains up, or XP gains down Gengar that was at max level before the level 65 update. So it is fair, I think. Like 3 out of 10. Cooking some of the highest tier meals have too much of an opportunity cost if you're running. Oh yeah, this is a huge thing. There's a case for that. You probably should just be running Berry Specialists instead, or Generalists, than trying to run or than trying to run Pot Expanders while also farming the ingredients, just because it's difficult. Better just to focus... Yeah. That's if you want to do well for strength. But if your goal is to level the meals, I can understand that. Because it is good to level up the meals so that you're ready for those event weeks when you're trying to make the strongest meal. So, depends on what your goals are. I give this a 7 out of 10. Even if berry specialist teams are stronger, cooking shouldn't be overlooked. Leveled up dishes provide strength that isn't island specific and can give a huge boost at the beginning of the week. It's also easier to raise ingredient mods to level 30, which is enough to make them viable, than getting multiple berry specialists of one of a kind to very high level, and getting enough coverage for every island. More mixed approach will give time to be picky about the next berry specialist, as you'll generally want them to become long-term investments. Very accurate there. This is kind of my ideology about the game summarized. I think that people that focus way too much on ingredients and don't think about berries are overlooking berries, and I think that people that are focusing way too much on berries and overlooking ingredients are overlooking ingredients. And if neither of them are thinking about the skills that synergize best with their playstyle, and they're heavily overlooking the skills, because skill specialists are strong too. So, I think the game is very well balanced, and all aspects should be considered. So, I'm going to give this like a 3 out of 10 for Spice. It's okay to use that shiny in your box. Absolutely. Hot take, they should add a farm marketplace to the game where you can trade one type of ingredient for another with a hefty price like 10 to 1. I mean, depends on the cost. I don't think it would really change things too much, and I don't think... I think it's just too... I think too many things are focused around getting the right ingredients, that adding something like that would be kind of busted to an extent, even if it is a hefty price. And what would be the point? Who would want to do that? Just run a Diglett, like, you're lacking tomatoes? Just run a Diglett for a day. You'll get a few tomatoes, probably way more tomatoes than what you could ever get exchanging your apples 10 to 1. And realistically, if you have too much, if you have an excess or overflow of ingredients, just sell those ingredients for dream shards realistically. You shouldn't, it's not optimal. But if you have nothing else to do with them, they do have an option of some way to get some value out of them. I think a better thing for this would maybe be to say increase the amount of dream shards given, because the dream shards given is not enough compensation for how much the value of an ingredient. I'm going to give this like a 5 out of 10 for hot spicy. It's fine to use a temp invest alongside your main invest. Extra ingredients ain't going to hurt you. Besides, you took the time, energy, and resources to get it that far. May as well not let it rot in the box. I mean, yeah, if you need an ingredient right now, then yeah, throw on your whatever you had for temporary investment. There's nothing wrong with that. Oh, but you're saying if you have a temp invest that you've invested up. I see. I see what you're saying. Yeah, I mean, I have plenty of investments that I don't intend to use. I have a Kangaskhan that is just ginger AAB or something like that. I don't ever plan to get it to 60. Don't really want to get it to 60. But I don't have a phenomenal ginger farmer right now, but it does the job side by side with my Raichu. And until I one day get that long-term invest. Don't think there's enough RNG in the game. Now, this is definitely a 10 out of 10. I don't even need to read the rest. This is a 10 out of 10 spice. As it is now, you just pick an island and set a team for each dish type and call it a day. I want the game to force you to use different variety of teams. Randomize the island berries, change Snorlax's meal type midweek, maybe have it so that Snorlax gets annoyed if you keep giving it the same dish within a week and starts taking reduced strength from it, etc. Anything to break out of habits. Honestly, okay. I hate this for regular play, but challenge mode? They've teased the challenging new mode. I'm just saying it could be. I would love to see it because I think that there's some interesting challenges to be made there. I've always kind of, when the game was first released and I was thinking about the implications of the later islands, I didn't like the fact that they were fixed berries. I honestly would prefer to see like each island have a pool of 4 or 5 berries, maybe even 6 berries, that it randomly selects each week, or maybe each island having like one fixed berry, like Siam Beach is just guaranteed water, and then the other 2 are random. I think that would be more engaging for team variation as well. Give more variety and uniqueness to certain Pokemon that don't get a lot of focus right now. Like, who cares about Dodrio right now? Who uses a Dodrio? It exists. You only use a Dodrio if you catch a good one. Who's hunting it? Nobody. Unless you really like Dodrio for some reason. So, I can agree with it as a challenge mode, but the game is so fixed around planning how it is right now. I don't think I want to see them ever change that. I'm giving that a 10 out of 10 for spice level. Hot take: ingredient magnet skill specialists, including slacking, are not currently worth the amount of resources required to be invested in them to be good. Main reasons we see ingredient magnet mons are used for pot filler or tail stacking. The level 60 ingredient specialist Pokemon, especially AAA ones, provide better consistency and, depending on the Pokemon, higher quality filler than Vape, Hera, or Slacking. Good Vikavolt or Beware can pull over 90 to 100 of their respective ingredients, on average, with the base power of them being much higher than what Vaporeon will usually find, as most ingredients sit around 100 to 120 base power, while Coffee and Corn are 153 and 140 respectively. Very fair. And then for Tails, Slowbro is actually more consistent than Vaporeon. Good one averaging about 18 Tails per day, versus 1 to 2 procs a day with Tails, unless RNG is heavily in your favor. Remember, it's choosing from 3 ingredients from a pool of 17. Slowbro has the added factor of being able to synergize with Suicune to drastically increase its daily tail production. Also very true. But I think a lot of people like the fun aspect of the randomness. And it's also a lot easier to get a Vaporeon earlier game, get its main skill level to level 7. That can be a bit of investment, but if you're premium, it is easy to get its main skill level to 7, and then just use it. Use it to get the tails, use it to get whatever it is. Also, if you have less ingredients unlocked, then you're more reliably going to be getting the ingredients that you actually need. I know there was one dude that did a very interesting experimental account where he only unlocked like a few ingredients just so that it maximized the productivity for tails, which is crazy. But there are some interesting things to be done there. But yeah, definitely it is more likely that you can get more filler from other Pokemon. But Ingredient Magnet, is just a more interesting skill. But yeah, realistically, it's probably not currently worth the amount of resources required invested. But you can get it earlier than you can get a level 60 ingredient specialist. If I had invested my skill seeds properly, or if I had targeted a certain skill specialist with the sleepers, I could have had a maxed out level, main skill level, ingredient magnet slacking by now. And that could have gotten me a decent amount of filler for my pot. And that could have gotten me, but I'm not even at the point yet where I can get level 60 Pokemon because of my research rank. So, it depends on where you're at in the game. And realistically, and this is kind of a mini hot take of mine, I think that skill specialists that are more generalist roles, whether that be through ingredient magnets or through charge strength, I think they're all not late game viable. Late game. And I'm talking like later game than what currently we think of as late game. Because realistically, I think way in the future, if we need another slot, if we already have our ingredients taken care of and our meals and we have an extra slot on the team, what's it going to be? A favored berry specialist. Theoretically, we'll have at least one or two of those for every single island in the game, so we won't actually need a generalist role. Nothing will need to fill the generalist role way late game. Nothing will need to fill the generalist role of ingredient finder, which is really what the ingredient magnet specialists are. Late game, none of those Pokemon are viable. That's after a certain point, though. We're at a point where earlier game, sure, they may take seeds, but over the lifespan, sure, will that Pokemon eventually die out in usage? Maybe. So I'm going to give this like a... I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10 for Spice, because the community probably would hate this. But realistically, it's pretty accurate. So, if you guys have enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Down in the description, I'll leave a link. Come join the Discord, hang out, talk about all things Pokemon Sleep and the like. I've recently added a option to join the channel memberships. Feel free to click that if you want to and are financially capable of doing so. I don't paywall any content over here, but it's there if you want to support me in that way. And as always, I thank you all for watching and hope that you all have a wonderful day. Bye-bye now.